The heavy gold-embossed invitation to the annual Boston Heritage Thanksgiving Gala felt cold in Elara's hand, a stark contrast to the September warmth streaming through the penthouse window. This was the same gala where, 8 years prior, Arthur had proudly introduced her as his brilliant, beautiful wife. Now, staring at the calligraphy, she couldn't shake the feeling that this year, the gala wouldn't be a celebration, but a stage for their polite, silent war. Their penthouse overlooking the Boston Common was immaculate, a sterile, minimalist space filled with expensive art but lacking any personal photos or warmth. The atmosphere was always quiet, tense, and lonely. At their massive marble breakfast table, the silence was broken only by the sharp click of Arthur's spoon against his bowl. Elara brought up the invitation. Arthur, his eyes fixed on his tablet, murmured without looking up, "Of course. Just wear the blue dress, darling. The one that matches the sapphire." He paused, finally glancing at her. "It looks wonderful against your skin." The compliment felt calculated, like he was appraising a valuable asset he owned. That afternoon, Elara chaired her charity committee meeting via Zoom. She was competent, respected, and decisive, a stark contrast to the dismissive way Arthur treated her. She was not just a trophy wife. As she finalized the budget, she remembered her grandmother's words, a constant source of strength. "Don't let anyone, especially a man who thinks he's your superior, mistake your quiet for weakness." Arthur came home late, long after the sun had set. As he passed her in the hall, Elara noted the faint, lingering scent of an unfamiliar, expensive perfume. Chanel No. 5, perhaps. Classic, but decidedly not hers. When she asked how his day was, he brushed her off, loosening his tie. "Just work, Elara. You know how it is in tech." He sighed. "It's complex." Complex was his favorite word, the one he used to end conversations, the one that implied she, in her simple world, could never understand. Later that night, Elara saw his suit jacket draped over a dining chair, a task their housekeeper usually handled. As she picked it up to hang it properly, a platinum keycard fell from the inner pocket, landing silently on the rug. It wasn't for their building or his office. It was for the Avery, a hyper-exclusive boutique hotel in Beacon Hill. Elara froze, her blood turning to ice. The Avery was the hotel where Arthur had proposed to her, the place he always called their spot. Elara has just found the keycard. The betrayal runs deep. If you are still watching and feel the weight of this moment, please comment with the word strength below to let us know you are standing with Elara on this journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I strongly encourage you to subscribe to Black King and turn on that notification bell. We are dedicated to telling the powerful stories our community deserves, stories of intelligence, resilience, and ultimate victory. Your support helps us continue to create compelling content that informs and inspires. You do not want to miss what she does next. Now, let's continue. The next morning, Elara did not cry, nor did she confront Arthur. Instead, she made a call to Lisa Martinez, the sharpest divorce attorney in Boston, a woman she'd met at a fundraiser. Sitting in Lisa's elegant, wood-paneled office, Elara recalled Arthur's dismissive, "It's complex." "We're about to see just how complex he really is," she thought. Lisa, all business, leaned forward. "If he's hiding this, he's hiding money," the lawyer warned. "They always are. We need more than a hotel key." "I am not confronting him," Elara stated, her voice steady. "I need to know what I'm dealing with first. I want to hire a forensic accountant." Lisa, impressed, nodded and recommended a man named Robert Chen. Later that week, Elara casually stopped by the high-end cafe in the lobby of Arthur's office building. As predicted, Arthur came down for his mid-morning coffee, but he wasn't alone. He was laughing, a deep, genuine laugh Elara hadn't heard in years, with his young assistant Chloe. Chloe saw Elara first. The young woman didn't look guilty. She looked smug. She smiled at Elara, a small, pitying smile that said, "You're old news." That single look, dripping with a condescension that was a mix of ageism and racism, confirmed everything. Elara's meeting with Robert Chen was different. He was meticulous and serious. She gave him her suspicions, and he began to dig. A few days later, he called, his voice grave. "Mrs. Elara, the affair is the least of it. Your husband has been moving large sums from his company's R&D fund into an offshore shell account. Robert then sent her a secured file. It was a wire transfer from that shell account, used as a down payment on a $3 million condo in the seaport. The name on the deed was not Arthur's. It was Chloe's. He's not just cheating, Elara whispered to herself, staring at the documents. He's stealing. And he's using company money to pay for her. The night of the Thanksgiving gala arrived, and Elara, armed with the knowledge of Arthur's embezzlement, slipped on the blue sapphire dress like a suit of armor. As she fastened the clasp on the matching sapphire necklace, she thought of Chloe's smug, pitying smile in the cafe. The financial evidence proved this wasn't a new fling. Arthur had been planning his exit and securing his stolen assets for months. The lavish gilded ballroom at the historic Boston Hotel was suffocating, filled with the city's elite. The air smelled heavily of roasted turkey and expensive perfume, a grotesque mockery of the Thanksgiving theme. Elara played her role perfectly, the smiling, supportive trophy wife. Arthur, at his most charming and fake, gripped her arm possessively as cameras flashed. "Smile, darling," he murmured, kissing her cheek for the press. "Let's show them what community leadership looks like." The hypocrisy made her stomach turn. Later, Arthur took the stage, delivering a keynote speech about transparency, legacy, and family values. Elara watched from the head table, her face a mask of wifely adoration, while she clutched the secret knowledge of his felonies. Chloe, ever the shadow, was also present as Arthur's assistant. She found Elara near the powder room, her expression bold and annoyed. "Mrs. Elara," she said, her voice sweet poison. "I'm so glad Arthur still brings you to these things. It must be so nostalgic for you." It was a direct taunt, an attempt to relegate Elara to the past. Elara merely smiled, a calm, cool gaze. "Nostalgia is lovely to Chloe, but I've always been more focused on the future." As the gala wound down, Arthur pulled Elara aside, his public charm gone, replaced by businesslike efficiency. "Elara, we need to talk. I've booked a table at Le Vautour tomorrow night. 8 p.m. It's important." Le Vautour. The Avery. He was ending the marriage in the same place as it began. The sickening, predictable arrogance of it all made her realize he thought this was his decision. The arrogance is breathtaking. Arthur and Chloe just taunted Elara at the gala, and now he set the stage to dump her at the very restaurant where he proposed. But they have no idea who they are dealing with. If you are still watching and you are ready to see Elara turn the tables, please comment with the number 100 below to show us you are here for the takedown. And if you haven't subscribed, I strongly encourage you to subscribe to Black King and lock in that notification bell. We don't just tell stories, we serve justice. You have watched the setup, and you do not want to miss the payoff. Your support helps us continue to create powerful content that inspires our community. Now, let's get to the dinner. The morning after the gala, Elara did not spend her time reminiscing. She was in Lisa Martinez's 40th floor office, overlooking the Boston Harbor, finalizing the documents that would dismantle an empire. The city outside was gray and overcast, matching the serious, strategic mood inside the sterile office. Elara couldn't help but remember Arthur's repeated, condescending use of the word complex. Lisa tapped the thick, bound document on the table. "This isn't just a divorce filing, Elara," she said, her voice sharp. "This is a criminal complaint. Once we file this, there's no going back." Elara, calm and focused, was joined by Robert Chen, the forensic accountant. They reviewed the final evidence together. The undeniable trail of wire transfers from Arthur's R&D fund to the Cayman Shell Company, and from that shell company directly to the seller of Chloe's $3 million condo. "He was arrogant," Robert Chen noted, shaking his head in admiration of Elara's instincts. "He was so sure you'd never look. His prejudice made him sloppy." It was a chilling validation. Arthur's belief that she was an inferior, clueless accessory was the very thing that sealed his doom. Lisa picked up the phone. "We're flagging Arthur's company for immediate review with the SEC, based on this evidence," she stated to the person on the other end. After hanging up, she looked at Elara. "We'll file the criminal complaint tonight. The assets will be frozen by morning." That evening, Elara prepared for Le Vautour. She ignored the blue sapphire dress Arthur liked. Instead, She chose a powerful, elegant red dress. She methodically placed the thick bound papers, the criminal complaint, into her designer handbag. She looked at her reflection, seeing the woman Arthur had tried to make small, the trophy he thought he owned. "You didn't see me," she whispered to his imagined reflection. "But the SEC will." She picked up her purse, the weight of the documents inside feeling like justice, and walked out of the penthouse for the last time. The air at Louverture was heavy with the scent of old money and roasted duck, and sitting at their proposal table, looking unbearably smug, was Arthur and his new love. The restaurant was exactly as Elara remembered from their engagement. Dark wood, soft lighting, designed for intimacy. Arthur, she knew, was weaponizing this memory against her. The papers in her handbag, resting in her lap, felt cool and heavy. She arrived alone. The maitre d' looked momentarily surprised to see 3 people at the reservation. Arthur and Chloe were already seated. "Elara, darling," Arthur said, standing, his voice using false sincerity. "I'm so glad you came. I'd like you to meet Chloe." Chloe, wearing a dress too flashy for the old money room, simply looked at Elara with open pity. Arthur delivered his rehearsed speech. "Elara, we've grown apart. I found a new love. Chloe and I are in love." Chloe then leaned in, placing a hand on Arthur's. "Arthur has been wanting to tell you, but he didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice soft. "We just connect on a different level." The racial subtext was thick, the implication that Elara, as a black woman, was not his intellectual or cultural equal. Finally, Arthur slid a single, thin envelope across the table. "These are the divorce papers. A simple dissolution. You'll be very well taken care of course." He smiled, the benevolent king, believing he had one. Elara looked at the thin envelope. Then she looked at Arthur. Then she laughed, a soft, amused, utterly controlled laugh. "Oh, Arthur." She reached into her handbag and pulled out her thick, bound document. "The thing is, darling, you're going to need these more than I need those." She placed the papers on the table with a heavy, definitive thud. Arthur's smile vanished. He read the cover sheet, his face turning ghost white. Criminal complaint, embezzlement, wire fraud, and securities violations. What is this?" Arthur stammered, his voice a hoarse whisper, while Chloe leaned in, her smug expression finally cracking into visible, ugly confusion. Elara calmly quoted his own words from their breakfast conversation. "It's just complexities, Arthur. But I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to understand it." "How?" he whispered again, frantically flipping through pages detailing his own crimes. "How?" Elara repeated, her voice cutting through the restaurant's quiet hum. "The condo for Chloe, Arthur? Bought with R&D funds. The shell company in the Caymans. You were so busy seeing me as the clueless wife you bought as an accessory, you never thought the accessory might be smarter than you." Chloe shrieked, a sharp, undignified sound. "Arthur, you said you had money." "He had money," Elara said, standing up, her movement fluid and graceful. "But as of 8 a.m. this morning, the SEC froze all his assets. Your assets too, Chloe. That condo is now evidence." Elara placed a crisp $100 bill on the table for the water they'd barely touched. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." She walked out of the restaurant, not looking back, feeling the eyes of the entire room on her. As she hit the cool night air of the Boston street, she breathed freely for the first time in years. 8 months later, Elara stood in a bright, sunny office. It was the headquarters of the Elara Foundation, a nonprofit she founded, funded by her settlement, to help minority and women-owned businesses. Arthur, we learn, had taken a plea deal for embezzlement and was serving time. Elara looked out her new office window, not at the Boston skyline, but at a bustling street in a revitalized neighborhood. She was no longer a billionaire's wife. She was just Elara. And she was free. She realized Arthur hadn't destroyed her life. He had forced her to reclaim it, on her own terms and based on her own undeniable worth. Elara's journey from a gilded cage to a life built on her own terms reminds us that the quietest person in the room is often the most powerful. The world will often try to judge us by our appearance, our background, or our color, but our true worth is never negotiable. When we set aside prejudice and look deeper, we see the undeniable strength that lies just beneath the surface. If this story touched your heart, consider sharing that warmth and wisdom with those who might need it.